Welcome to the Mind-Gut Conversation, your go-to podcast for exploring cutting-edge ideas in optimal health and the fascinating science of mind-gut microbiome interactions. I'm your host, Emmer Meyer. Here we bring together thought leaders, groundbreaking researchers, and innovative practitioners to share insights that can transform the way you understand your body, mind, and overall well-being. Whether you're a health enthusiast, a curious learner, or a professional in the field, this podcast is your gateway to unlocking the secrets of the mind-gut connection. So settle in, open your mind, and join us as we journey into the science and stories shaping the future of health. Several weeks ago, I had the pleasure to visit Michelin star chef Norbert Niederkofler in his new restaurant called Atelier Moessmer in Brunico, the cultural capital of South Tyrol, a semi-autonomous province in the Dolomite region of northeast Italy. This time, I not only had another fascinating conversation with Norbert about his cooking philosophy, but also had the pleasure to experience his amazing new restaurant firsthand. Despite the fact that he had already earned Michelin stars with his Rosa Alpina gourmet restaurant at St. Hubertus Hotel, he made a radical decision in 2008 to ban imported luxuries, not to mention Italian staples such as olive oil, tomatoes, and lemons from his cuisine. It was the start of his dedication to extreme locavore cuisine, which he calls Cook the Mountain, that he has followed ever since. In July 2024, his legend of high mountain cooking brought his destination dining down from the slopes, launching a new flagship restaurant, Atelier Moessmer Norbert Niederkofler, in the town of Brunico. Welcome to the show, Norbert. Yeah, let me start with this. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here in this location for the first time. We've talked in the past about some of the amazing things that you've been doing and continue to do, but this is the first time we actually sit down face to face. And I have a few questions to you. Let's start with the one that you just recently opened a new restaurant here in town in Brunico, and before that, we came here, I think, a couple of years ago and ate at your restaurant on top of this mountain outside. But this time we are down in the valley, and with your signature way of preparing food that you've called Cook the Mountain, how has this affected your overall philosophy? Are you keeping the philosophy now being down in the valley? And how is this changing the way you prepare food and look at food?
Well, Emmer, it's a great honor to sit here with you, and I'm really looking forward to this nice talk on the table, because we were talking about how important this is. Cook the Mountain was born in 2008 because of I was fed up of, in the end of the day, eating always the same product, flying around the world, having the same ingredients. So that's why I decided to go a different way. And in the beginning was just to be different, but then it started to work out really in a sustainable way, really in a new way of thinking gastronomy. And the new restaurant in Brunico is called Atelier Moessmer Norbert Niederkofler. Why Moessmer? Because we are in a historical building by Moessmer, which is one of the oldest manufacturers for Loden. And so it's, I try always to be very, very respectful to things like this, and always I'm very interested always also in history.
For the American audience, Loden is a type of clothes or textile that a lot of the local...
Yes, it's like a Gorotex, but the old way.
Yes.
It's like a cooked wool, and so that's why it needs a lot of water, needs a lot of energy. But it's a cooked wool, and it used to be especially used for hunting and also for working outside, because it keeps warm, and it's very, it's a little bit like the old jeans in America. Yeah. We have the Loden.
And it's still popular here.
It's still popular, yes, and it's very nice fabrics, and it works out really well. And the ceiling in Alpine, where you mentioned before, was done with Loden, and it has also a very good effect on acoustic, which is very important for restaurants.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting it, but I think few people in the US will have heard this word Loden before.
The effect of moving in the valley for us was very positive. We keep the same principles of the Cook the Mountain philosophy, so it's very tied in. And the good thing about it is that we have the whole year. You can work the whole year round, because Cook the Mountain, just to explain it, when I started to do it, I took a piece of paper, then I set up 4 rules. I set up one rule is we are not using any greenhouses. So there's absolutely no vegetables which comes out of a greenhouse. So you have to work in different altitudes and different altitudes, because otherwise you would have everything on one space. And you couldn't handle the amount of products which are coming in very short time. So that's why we work in different altitudes. Different latitudes is very important, because we have, if you have everything on one place, and maybe you catch a big hail or you catch a big bad weather period, then you're running out of products. Mm-hmm. So that's why, because the philosophy is always, we start always to think 1 year ahead. So we have to think today for next year. What we have today, what nature gives you today, comes back again next year. Mm-hmm. So that's why, but it's nothing new. It's in the old traditions. It's this is how it was done by our parents, grandparents, grandparents. But then that time was mostly to survive, because otherwise in winter you had nothing to eat, because winter is very cold, it's snowy, so 3, 4, 5 months, sometimes you have nothing here. Then the other rule was no olive oil, because on where we had the old restaurant on 1,700 meters, there's no olive trees. Then we have no citrus, which is very important also for what we are doing, because we had to work with berries, we had to work with fruit, we had to work with different roots, we had to work with different herbs, with a lot of fermentation, so which is very interesting. And we have one part which is absolutely no waste. So I took this, I wrote the principles, and I said to my young team, so now you can play, have fun. And so we started with this, and obviously today, being in the city of Brunico, you have much more. You have 12 months, so you can do much more, and you can go much deeper in this philosophy, and also you can create new things, new ways of thinking, and this is always done with a fantastic team.
So this is radically different from the approach that you worked with before, decades ago, where a lot of ingredients, or like fish, for example, were flown in from all over the world. And so you completely changed that 180 degrees.
I would say 360 degrees, because we went the whole turnaround. No, exactly. We were doing 95% of foie gras every day in the appetizer, and we did around 100 to 150 kilos of sea fish flying in from all over the world. So nevertheless, if you have a beautiful cut in Alaska, we were flying it in. We have abalone oysters from abalone mussels from Australia. We flew them in, and so I said absolutely no. And the biggest success what we achieved in 2017, when we were the first restaurant to get 3 stars with a completely sustainable concept, was going much further. I mean, for us, the success was huge, but the impact is much bigger, because we showed young people, we showed the chefs of the next generation, you can go 3 stars when you respect the nature around you. So nevertheless, where you are, when you are in Sicily, if you keep the traditions, if you keep really the culture of Sicilian food, you can go 3 stars. Umbria, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you keep this. And I think this is very important for the future, because in this way we keep roots for the next generations, we keep roots for our kids. And I think this is very important, because otherwise in a couple of years we eat all the same thing. We eat all the same products from the can, we eat all the same products from the freezer.
Which is already happening.
Which is already happening.
Yes.
Yes.
So I mean, I haven't heard of another place that is so, I would almost say radical, different from the traditional way where, on the menu, restaurants brag themselves to have, the best product from Japan so this is so radically different, but still it's really popular. I mean, like you have built an amazing career and success around this. And even since you moved down here, we talked about a few things beforehand, this sort of seems to be exploding.
We see it, and especially with young people. Especially young people, they are very curious about it. They are very interested in this. And so I think this helps us a lot to go on and really to grow we have trained in the last, since 2008, around 40 chefs, which are around the world today, which is 1 star, 2 stars. There's not 3 stars yet, but they're coming. And so they give me still a little bit of time, to be ahead, but, they are really pushing hard. And so this is great. And we are all connected. And sometimes they call me, chef, what do you think about this? I would do, or can you help me on this decision? What should I do there? And so this is fantastic for me. And so that's why also the Atelier Moessmer, I say always, it's not a restaurant anymore. It's a home, but it's always also a think tank. It's also a talent scouting space, and we do all the training. We do all the thinking for the future there. Also with the university bachelor, what we founded 3 years ago, with the university in Bolzano, with the technical park in Bolzano, all the practical things are done in the atelier. So it's quite interesting.
So it's almost become like a university, a practical university, for this kind of attitude towards food. Would you say that like some of these disciples that you've trained, are they all focused on the mountain, or can this be applied to any sort of local ecosystem?
No, this can be applied to any local system, because it's, we just take the principles. I mean, they don't have to not use olive oil when they are in Tuscany. So, yeah. But they always focused on the products, what they find on the nature, what gives you. So they're focused on the nature, and see the products, what nature gives you around there. And so I think this is very important. So in this way, you avoid to move with trucks, products around the world, and which is very important, because when you think that with the 2 restaurants, with the Alpine and with the Atelier, we buy from local farmers for every year for around 600,000-700,000 euro local products without middlemen. So we go directly, we have meetings with the farmers, we talk with them about the problems, we talk about the good things, we try to solve them, and we pay directly. So they get the money which usually the middlemen get. And so also for them, it's very interesting. As I said, also there we have a lot of young families, mostly young families, maybe mostly, or very often also young families who come from a completely different types of job before, and then they move into this business. And so for us, this is great. And, it's a local economy. And you can build it up. And if there's more people following this, then you really have a local economy. And so it grows. And this helps also a lot for the environment.
So when did you hear that? It seems like an inspiration to, combine, this gourmet cooking with sustainability. And when did you make that connection? Was that always like when you were younger, you traveled, you worked in different places in the world? Did you always have that concept, or did this evolve over time?
I was always very curious. I was also always very interested in when I was working in America, I behaved always as a guest. So I'm happy to be in this country. I'm happy to share with you the culture. I'm happy to share with you the products. And I try to learn as much as possible and to bring them back here. And so this is what I was doing the whole life. I was traveling a lot. First, I started to become a chef just because of traveling, because I didn't have the money, because I was born in a very small village here. And my parents had a business, but they couldn't afford to send Mr. Norbert Niederkofler around the world to see. So that's why I started to become a chef, and because it was the easy thing for me, so that's why I was working for a long time in America. I was working in Asia. I was working in UK. I was working in Switzerland, and everywhere. I was in Germany, and there was everywhere. I tried to learn as much as possible about the culture, because I think food is culture. And with food, you can see a lot of things. There's always a why. Why products in India are so spicy? Why things are done in this way? Why in the Nordic countries is a lot done in this way? So there's always a why. And this is always what I was very interested in. And you see it also from the point of view how people eat. And also you see it also from the health point of view, how people eat. And this was always very interesting. And still today, so today sometimes I talk to my chefs, I say, hey, listen, in which culture are you interested? Well, yes, we would love to go to India. Okay. So like next year we're going to India because we have the opportunity, we have the chance, and then we go to the mountains, in Tibet in India, in Nepal, and we see what's going on there. And then we take a lot of ideas, inspiration here, and we work it out here but using our own products.
You had one very interesting, amongst all these studying and living in different cultures, like a very interesting thing sticks out to me, that you spent time with the Hopi indigenous people in the southwest of the US. What did you learn from the Hopis in terms of, cooking, preparing food?
I think it's more the respect for the culture. It's more the respect also for the spirituality, and it's also the respect how to act or how to see nature. So they were always talked about Mother Nature, and I think we have to see it in this way, and we think we should go back to think a little bit more in this way. Obviously, we cannot maybe do it like it was done, but in the end of the day, we are 8 billion people today, and by 2050, we are going to be 10 billion. And so we are already having now, with purchasing the products, with really working out also with the food supply system. And so that's why we have to really go back and to think in that way. But for me, I was always interested in how the Hopi Indians were thinking, and also, so I wrote a lot of books, and I went there. I mean, I was not living with them, I was living in the area, but I wanted to have the energy, and I wanted to really to feel it. And there's one sentence that they say that Tibet and the Hopi Indians keep the world in balance, and it was fantastic. And also the movie, what they did, Koyanis
Kwatsi.
It's fantastic. I saw it there, and I really, when I still today sometimes I look at it, but I remember still the first time I was sitting there and I was getting nervous because everything moved faster and faster and faster. The music got more aggressive and more aggressive. And then I came to a point I said, no, I have to leave the room now. I have to leave the roof. And then I started to go away, and then all came how they said, implosion.
Yeah.
When it goes back, when it starts to move faster, slower. And I think we have to be a little bit aware that we are not going to go in that direction, because we are quite closed, and we are quite on the aggressive line as they were. And so I hope we realize that we have one world, so we should take the...
Yeah. It's interesting. So a few years ago, we went to this place. I've forgotten how to New Mexico, and interviewed the director of Koyanis Kwatsi of the film. Old man, very interesting interview. And so he has lived with the Hopis as well, and this concept of balance that they have in their religion, and basically the Western world or the modern world having taken the world out of balance to ever greater degrees is definitely something I think to...
It's fantastic. You always meet twice. And when I was meet twice, but you meet the situation sometimes also when I was in Germany and I was working for Mr. Schubeck, and we were doing a book there, then there was a photographer, and they said, hey, you have some things what I know. He said, why do you know those things? I said, well, this comes from the Hopi Indian. So why do you know the Hopi Indians? And I told him the story, and I said, why are you wearing those things from the Hopi Indians? And he was the only photographer which was allowed to take pictures when they had how do you say, the meetings with the old wise people there, because but he had to sign or had to tell really that he was not allowed to sell these pictures or to use them, but they were just allowed to use them when they have something with the United Nations. So that's why he was leaving the whole period. He was living there for a couple of months. He had all to do the cleaning of the body, the cleaning of the mind. And so it was fantastic stories. And this was really, really great for me to re-see those things.
So that brings me to the next question. So for a lot of people in the world, food is basically just fuel for the body to function. I would say the majority, indigenous people have a very different attitude, the spiritual attitude towards it. Modern people now in the US, everything is about health, and to the extreme that you can't even enjoy anything anymore because, you have to weigh out each ingredient and how much can you eat per day of this and this. And other people eat their hamburger while driving in the car or sitting in a meeting, completely lost the connection to anything. So in your case, what's the most important part? Is the aesthetics? Is it the cultural, the spiritual, or sustainability? I guess in some ways is a spiritual concept. You want to keep the world in balance. But is it all of these? It's certainly not just the nutrition. That's the least important part of it, I would.
Well, it is nutrition, and especially when you respect the nature around you. Nature gives you exactly what you need, what your body needs. It gives you in every season. So there's a beautiful also with the colors. Because like in wintertime, when you think about this area, I mean, you are close from this area, and so in wintertime everything is very dark. Days are very short, so you eat more. You need more energy. You eat more carbohydrates. You need more heavy stuff because usually when you were working outside, body burns much more calories. Mm-hmm. Then after a certain time, you get really fed up of those darkness, also with the weather, also with the light, and so you really wait until spring comes in, and then spring comes in with these really nice airy colors, with rice, really light tastes, really light new things, beautiful colors. Then summer comes in with strong colors, with very strong taste, and then you get again fall with the brown, with the yellow. And so also with the consistency of the colors. So we have to go back to biodiversity, which is very important because like we are using something between 20 to 25 different types of carrots, because you have the spring carrot, you have the summer carrot, you have the fall carrot, and you have the very late fall carrot, what you can preserve in the cellar, in the sand, like they used to do it in the old days. And I think, it's a very, very interesting sentence. So I'm always very into those old sayings, you are what you eat. And it's very interesting what you said before, but again, when you take, I say also when you take a piece of paper, or when you take to measure, then you see, okay, your life is 80 years. So the average maybe 90 years. Then in the beginning, when you grow up, you don't care about, because there's still a long way to go. But when you come up to 50, 60, then you see that you are running short of time. And the very interesting thing is that most of the people, they start then to think about healthy food, not in the beginning. So when they're really building up the career, when they really were pushing, so they had at midnight some hamburgers, they had some really chunky, shitty food. And then when you come up to a certain age where you say, hey, listen, I'm running out of time here. I'm running short of time is a problem here. So then I have to start to think about healthy food, about this. So I think it's the biggest problem today. There's no more, how do you say it, Hausverstand, how do you say it in English?
Natural reason, or yeah.
Yeah, so like we have a big problem with meat. We have too much meat. Now there's a lot of vegetarian. I mean, how many times did you have meat when you were a child?
Yeah, all the time.
That was, well, I had it once per week. It was on Sunday.
Yeah, early on it was once per week.
Yeah,
it was fish once per week on Fridays.
Yes,
and
so we had always a lot of vegetarian food, and it was always built up on this. And obviously, in spring, as I said, you had very light food, and in fall you had cabbage, you had sage, you had potatoes, you had all those things. So, and if we follow nature, this is very, because also from your point of moving, for your point of thinking, for your point of feeling, nature gives you the rhythm, and we should just really look at the rhythm what nature gives us, and then I think we wouldn't have to talk about so many things about nutrition. So if you just follow this, and what I said, biodiversity is very important. So like today, nobody knows how many mushrooms we have in the mountain area. We have over 2,000 different types of mushrooms, but commercially used is maybe 5. We have 1,200 different types of apples. You had apple which, when you collected them, you couldn't eat them because they were too hard, they were too tough. Then you stored them in till January, February, and they were the best apples you could have. So that's why I think we have to learn much, much more about those things and to go really back in those directions. Obviously, you have to work it in a different way. Industrial-wise, it's very difficult because you don't have the volume. But also from the apple, you have, at the end, as I said, 1,200 different types of apples or more. Commercially used is maybe 40. And the biggest business goes on 6, 7, 8 different types of apples. So all the rest you're losing. So that's why also with the spirituality, I think for me it was always very interesting, to understand what's going on. And most of the people or scientists say that we use up to 8-9% of our brain.
Our brain.
But it's very funny, we are nature. When you go out in nature, I have not found anything else which is 90% superfluous. So everything is a reason why it is there. And I think if we start learn, maybe to take a step back and to be a little bit more respectful to all those things, that we can do a lot of things and we can learn a lot of things. So this is quite, for me, an interesting point of view.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting, like in your communications and your books, you always talk about that nature tells you like the recipes for your dishes. It's not that you come up and you project something onto the food. It's like you listen to nature and what is being suggested that is good for human consumption. I mean, that's kind of an interesting.
What we are doing sounds very romantic. It is not. It's very complex because you have to start what I said before. With the difference of spring. So when you have springtime, you have lemon verbena, which is very delicate. You have all the colors which are very delicate. So in that way, you have to see. We are always thinking from how nature presents you the products. So in that way, you have to use all the technique what you can have, all the technique that you know, in order to bring this product, this very, very delicate product, as natural as possible on the plate. So that's why you have to work with different temperatures. That's why you have to work with different cooking techniques. That's why you have to use products in a different way and really to use them the whole way to the plate. And so this is the beginning. So that's why what we are doing today, we cook the mountain. We have 4 seasons where we have a very radical way of changing the menus. But then we have to change the menu every day because maybe like these years we had really a lot of chanterelle mushrooms, but we didn't have any porcinis. Now we start with some porcinis. Other years you have a lot of products in this way, but so that's why you have always to see, but you have always to take the products as fresh as possible and then to use it. what we are doing then, so like today we are using 1/3 of the fresh products which come in today, we use them today. And 2/3 we have to preserve, we have to store, we have to use them in a different way in order to get products in late fall, winter, and early spring. Because otherwise there you don't have any products, and otherwise their kitchen would be very boring. So in this way, with old techniques, with old ways of thinking, with biodiversity, we can really do a menu the whole year round, which is from the color completely different. So also the menu is divided in 4 different colors, and which the color is completely different, which the consistency is completely different, and also which where the part for your body is completely different. I think this is very interesting, and also I think from the health point of view, it's very interesting.
How much does that influence your attitude towards food, the whole health aspect? I mean, you know that I'm coming from the biological side, and health has become sort of I like to call it one health. So it's healthy for us, healthy for our microbes inside of us, but also healthy for our environment and for nature. How much does health play a role in your attitude towards food?
I have to be very honest, not enough. Not enough, because we don't know about things. So this is why, for me, to sit on a table with you and to talk with you, for me is, wow, this is great, because we have to learn so many things. I do it mostly from my belly. I think fermentation is very good, is very healthy, because it helps for the whole digestion system. I think respecting nature is very healthy, because then your body needs much less energy, in order to digest the food. And I think, and it depends on what you are doing. If you're doing a lot of sport, obviously you need more of this. And so we are trying to, but I think it's very important for the future. So that's why I'm looking forward, really, maybe that we can jump much deeper in this subject, because I think in the future we will have a lot of things to talk about: food security, what's going on there, how, and especially also how we build up a system of convenience in a completely new way, because convenience is going to be a big part in the future. We have to rethink it, because also when you see the school system runs with a Mensa, and in the future we will go to have much more convenience. All the university campus, they have a Mensa. All the fabrics, they have a Mensa. And so I think we have to open up our mind and to go in a different way, especially also to work much more with the health industry and with the science, to see what we can do, to see where we go. And we have to really to bring much more people on board, especially also new generations, to bring them really, to tell them, okay, this. I mean, we have a culture mix all over the world. So it's not just one. Also in our little city here, we have a lot of foreigners which come here, which bring a lot of new ideas here. But obviously we have to see how our food system, how our nature, we can integrate in on all those new ways of thinking.
Fermentation. So you mentioned this is a big part, mainly driven by, not initially by health reasons, but by preserving things so you have it at the right season. And we know now today that fermentation and all the microorganisms that are being produced, different types of microorganisms produced with different types of fermentations and vegetables and whatever you naturally ferment. This has sort of become like almost as important as providing a source of fiber for the microbes. But I would imagine for reasons that for you were different, you have created a cuisine with a lot of naturally fermented products that we know today has major health benefits for diversity and richness of your microbiome. So my philosophy has become, or has evolved over time, that if you feed your microbes the best possible food, then automatically you're doing the best thing for yourself as well. And like the fermented foods are definitely one part of it. A lot of the plant-based products with the fiber, which is also the ideal food for the microbes. So another component is these large molecules that are contained in most plant-based foods and fruits, these polyphenols. It's another component that only the microbes know how to break it down. And so I sort of find that fascinating. Even though you didn't start, like we started out from totally different angles looking at food. But there's this convergence that I see, and it may actually happen even more in the future, that it points in the same direction,
Well, this was for us also for me, very important reason also to work with the technical park in Bolzano, because they have a center where they do a lot of research about fermented products, because the problem for us in the kitchen, that there was no rules. There was not rules written how you can use things. And so that's why, you do it, if you do it the wrong way, you can also send people in hospital. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you have to be very careful about this. But as you said, it's nothing new. It was done with especially it started with the scorbut on the boats. So there with the cabbage, with the fermented cabbage, they were able to resolve a lot of problems there. And it was done especially for preservation, as you said before. And so I think, but now we have to do the next step. And so that's why it's very important that we sit on a table and we talk. We talk and we find it out, because you can do amazing products. So like, as I said, everything is connected. And if you have not many problems with your digestion, your body has much more energy for your head, for all the other parts. And I think it's in this way, it's a very, very sophisticated machine, our body. And I think this is very interesting for the future. And so I'm really looking forward, that we can really start to sit down and to talk about all those things, and then to create new food for the future. Because obviously today we don't need that many calories as we used to do it in the old days, when you had to work on a farm for 8 hours out in the fields and really doing a lot of energy burning stuff. And so today is more sitting down, today is more sitting on a computer. So that's why you have also to change how you eat. And when you see also, I'm not talking badly about hamburger, but when you see that the hamburger has 1,200 calories, and after 3 hours you are hungry again. Mm-hmm. And your body, when you sit down, usually per day it burns around 1,800 calories. Mm-hmm. Then you have a problem, because if you have one hamburger and in 3 hours you are hungry again. So when you think that you do it the whole day, then you are eating quite too many calories. It's done in a very smart way. And I think we have to, as I said, I'm looking forward to those things.
How would you say, or how do you see, you've had this enormous success. It's to me, it's amazing, a small town here in the middle of the mountains, that you have been able to become a world-known authority and expert with 3 Michelin stars. How do you see this will evolve in the future? If you look in the future, 10 years from now, what do you think, if you had this conversation, what would we be talking about?
Well, a lot of people talk about the problems in the fine dining industry, but it's always periods. And when you come to the end of a certain period, you have to rethink. It's not that we are running out of fine dining is going to be die or to be that in the future. I think we have to readjust. We have to think in a different way. We have to give more possibility to approach to things like this. And but for me, it helps a lot that I have a young team around me. So we have mostly the average age is around 26, 27 in the restaurant. And when you go with open eyes there and you see how young people react, how young people think, how they work, they see different things, then you have to learn. You have to go that way and not to stay stiff. No, this was done like this in the last 25 years, so we have to do it like this. We are not doing this, and I think I'm always very positive. I'm very positive because as you know, also with all the social media, on one side is negative, on one side it helps a lot. And so you have always to think to take the good part out of it and to try to use it as much as possible and in a good way as possible. I would like not to be dependent on those things, but, to have my own opinion. And I think this is very important. So that's why, I created a new restaurant. I became a chef first for traveling and for the ambience, what you have in the kitchen. Like when you have grown up in an old farmhouse, the most important room in the house was the kitchen. There was a big table, there was food, it was warm, and people were sitting around the table talking. Maybe talking sometimes a lot of nonsense, but also talking about interesting things, and creating new things. And I think this is one thing what we really have to take care and be careful that we are not going to do just Zoom calls anymore, but really sometimes take the time to sit down and to have a chat, and it's always a lot of fun. And so also the new restaurant is really built like this, because you have 16 to 18 people who can sit in the kitchen, who can interact also with the service team. They can interact also with the kitchen team. And I think this is very important. And then you realize what you can do. You realize especially about the feeling, what you have there. And I have to say that people spend much more time in the restaurant than they used to do it before. So we really built the restaurant up like a private house. You come to our house.
I mean, a big part, so as you know, the traditional Mediterranean diet has gotten a lot of attention because a lot of studies have been done. But when you travel in Italy, there isn't such a thing as the Mediterranean diet. Like you go so we were in Parma a couple of years ago, and the only thing that we got in restaurants and in receptions was ham and cheese and tortellini. Is it tortellini or
Tortellini?
And we were amazed that we couldn't even get a salad in a restaurant. But then you go to Sicily, and it's much more the traditional Italian cuisine or Mediterranean. And in this part of the country, again, it's not different. But if you look at the life expectancy in the different states of Italy, it's very similar. It's not like So I've always been wondering: is it not just the food? It's the lifestyle. It's how you socialize over food. And we see this every time we come here, and we envy it really coming from the US because we don't see it as much. People sit outside in restaurants and groups of people walking around with friends, with family. To me, that seems to be almost like an essential part of a healthy. There's this concept of the blue zones, and I think initially it was all thought it was just the diet, but it's much more. It's how these people live in these places in the world where they have the greatest longevity. I mean, do you see this in your, like you were describing this atmosphere in your restaurant? You come to your house and it's sitting in the kitchen, like sitting on the kitchen table in the past. You must have a similar philosophy about that.
I think that in Italy, we are in a very happy, very lucky position. And I think you can compare Italy a lot to Japan. Italy was not the country where we were talking too much about the chefs. It was more la cucina della mamma e la cucina della nonna. So it was much, much more influence with the family style kitchen, with the home style kitchen. So you didn't go to a restaurant where you had everything. You went to La Nonna in Parma because she did the best tortellini. Mm-hmm. So you went just to eat the tortellinis. Then you came to another place where you had the best ham. Then you came to another place where you had the best culatello. Then you came to another place where you had the best fish. So you were not going in a restaurant to have a whole meat, a whole evening, a whole dinner. But you had the best bollito misto, the best is. And it was always more about family style cooking. It was always more about really living the atmosphere. It was always more living really the momentum, really living the nature. And I think this is a big part, and it's still now we have it. We have it, and this is the lucky position. So that's why what I said before, that it's very important that you save those things. Because already now we are running out of some old restaurants, some old trattorias, because the grandparents are not there, the nonna is not there. And so this is, it's getting a little bit a problem, but still we have a different food system. And as you said, there's always why. So when you compare the cuisine from Sicily, it's very orientated to Morocco, to Greece, to that style. So the sweets are very sweet, but again, it's kind of preservation. Then you have us, which is not Italian food culture, but it's more Austrian-Hungarian food culture. So I think this variety is very interesting, and we should really work out to keep it. And I think because of this also, that you have all these different regions, so that you are not eating the same food everywhere. You have where you have fresh tomatoes, you eat fresh tomatoes. Where you have a lot of vegetables, you eat a lot of vegetables. Where you have a lot of fish, you eat a lot of fish. And so that's why I think it works out in that way. That's why I think this is one of the most important things that we preserve. And this is what I said before, that we are really proud that we gave them a reason, we gave young people a reason to stick on this, to stick on the culture, and to stick on the roots. And I think this can help a lot, and this will help a lot.
There's a couple of things I wanted to come back to. So one is, so we talked about this, this One Health concept, or I also like this term, interconnected. Interconnectedness is almost like a magic word, I think, that applies to everything in the world. And so one fascinating aspect of growing food is what happens when the plants interact with the soil that they're grown in. There's this whole microbial world in the soil that I think we're just, recently paying more attention to, and how this interacts, how these microbes interact with the root system of the plants. And when we use chemical fertilizers, we destroy basically this natural system of the microbes. And then this whole interaction, microbes, root system, plants, and contents of healthy phytochemicals in the plants decreases. The plants look nice, but they no longer contain those substances. So if much of the food comes, or the plants and the products come from the mountains, I would imagine that's another benefit that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, it's you don't use chemical fertilizer in the mountains to boost the food production.
Sometimes they are used, but in our case, we work with farmers directly, so we are not. They don't have to be certificated bio, because we are not interested in this, because we go there anyway to see what they do and to see how they work.
So bio, this would be in American, the organic.
Exactly, yes. But we go there, and when you work in the old system, obviously you have less production. But you have long-term production. This is the big difference, because the biggest problem today is we are running out of soil. Because we have, if we go on in this rhythm, we have around 40 harvests left. Then we are running out of soil, because already in Germany you have a lot of space where it's like desert, where it's nothing growing anymore. And this is about, that you use or you take too much out and you don't give it back. So that's why, when you have to be with the biodiversity works also, that you move your production. So maybe you have the potatoes here this year, then you have them here, then you have them here, and after 6-7 years they come back here. So the soil has the time to recover. The soil has the time to really rethink everything and really to redo it. But I think it's really interesting, to see how we have to change those things, and really it's also we have to rethink the way of how we grow products and how we use them in a different way, and also how they get done, But when you think in the end there's 2/3 of the earth is water, 1/3 is soil. And when you take that you're from 600 meters on, you're talking about mountain region, we have 2/3, which is a mountain region. So mountain are very important. We have still the possibility to go higher, but we have to take care about the global warming, because when we are on 2,000 meters, then we are not going higher anymore because there's not the mountains anymore. And what we see is, also when you compare things, when you go to the Nordic countries, it's much lower, because then you have certain things, what we have here on this altitude. In the Nordic countries, they go on 0 meters. Here they go on 1,000, 1,500 meters. But then when you move to Nepal or to Tibet, you have certain things, what you have here on 1,000 meters, you have them on 4,000 or 3,000 meters, because you're much closer to the equator. So it is a lot, but again, there we should really start to think about those things, and really also try with the industry to tell them the biggest problem today is the food waste. And I think we have to go back and really instruct from the kindergarten on to not wasting food, because we know in Europe is from 30 to 60% of the products which are bought, we throw them away. So, and everybody talks, when you go to the farmer's market, it costs too much money. This is not true, because when you work it out in a different way, that you say, okay, I'm going to the farmer's market, I'm paying maybe 15, 20% more, but I'm not going to throw away anything, because also the fresh products which I can buy there, I can maintain them for longer, so I have also much more time to use them at home. Then you still save money. And so this is, I think, and this is a very difficult way of thinking. We have to. It's always very difficult to talk about sustainability, because how can I tell someone who comes out of a very poor country and maybe he can start to afford things now, and we go there and we say, hey, you are not allowed, this is not good if you do this for the environment. So this is very respectless. So there's not a lot of respect in this, because we did everything what we had to do. So we were running around, we were flying around, we were using everything. So that's why we have to find a new way. So this is also the reason why today I prefer much more to talk about respect than about sustainability. Because we were grown up in countryside, we were grown up in mountain areas, and there you have to learn to deal with the nature, because nature shows you, hey, watch out what you're doing now here, because this is going to be very difficult for you, very problem for you. And so I think really we have to, or we should start to talk also in the kindergartens, to teach kids like this, to teach really them, and to educate in the end of the day the adults through the kids. Well, if someone says something to you like this, with their finger pointed, then you don't take care. But when you have the kids coming over the kindergarten, they say, hey, Daddy, this is not going to be good. Then you have a problem. Then you have a big problem. And I think this is a big topic, and this is a big thing to take care about.
Yeah, I think we've almost come to the end of this really fascinating conversation. Talking to you is almost more like talking to a philosopher, and more than a philosopher than a world-renowned chef. And I think that makes it so unique, because you don't just look at the food, you look at that whole universe around it, and the very different dimensions that a lot of people are not. Some people are starting to think about this, but not enough. I think it's definitely something that needs a lot of nurturing and dissemination to the public, and particularly to young people. I think that's kind of the most important thing. So this time we actually, because we're here on site, a place where you have your wonderful new restaurant, and I can't wait after this conversation to change the location and have one of these delicious meals where we think about all these concepts that we have been talking about now. And I hope we'll be able to continue these conversations like every few years, as we have done in the past. And I look forward to new exciting developments that will happen on your site. It's certainly amazing to me coming here and hearing how he's started a whole new thing with the old concepts and adapting these concepts to changes in the world. It's really been inspiring.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
You're more than welcome. So we have to take some time.
Yeah.
Thank you.